Hello and welcome to another video from Mr. Miz Nation, and today we are talking F1 and specifically the Jerez testing that took place from Tuesday all the way to Friday that showcased the new F1 2014 cars and also showcased the new sound, which was certainly interesting to hear. So in this video I'm basically going to be talking about how all the teams got on, basically what we've learned from Jerez, and also what the hell is going to happen heading into Bahrain, and potentially a few predictions from me, kind of. Well, I'm not going to really actually put predictions in here, but it's just going to be, I'll probably slot a few in there after some of the results of testing. But I will be making another video about my kind of bold 5 predictions, but that will be kind of at the start of March, before just before the season actually starts. But before I even get into the teams, I think I should talk about how the cars look and what they sound like, really. And I'll start with the sound, because that's really something I don't like, and for once I actually agree with Bernie Eccleston. I don't think many people usually do, but I think some people might agree with him on this one, saying he really doesn't like the new engine sounds, and I don't really either. Kind of sounds like a Formula 3 car, maybe a bit better, but I mean, I've heard Formula 3 cars and it sounds similar to that. And it sounds okay on the straight. I watched Ted Kravitz's Notebook, but around the corners it sounds a bit dull, and I just don't really like it. As for the look of the cars, well, that's just even more horrific, really, and saddening, if anything. You've got the Lotus double penetration nose, which hopefully doesn't glide into the front of a McLaren, otherwise we might have a Formula E baby. Then we've also got the Caterham front nose, which I don't even... I really want to see some names for that front nose, because I haven't come up with one yet, because I can't possibly think of a name for something so strange, really, and unique, I guess. A lot of people have gone for the kind of anti-nose, but I mean, it doesn't look brilliant. But I guess we'll end up getting used to them, as probably get used to the sounds as well. But I'm pretty sure F1 isn't going to be the same as it has been for the previous few years, so a lot of change going on. Now, I think there's really only one place to start for the teams, and, well, of course it is the current 4-time world champions in Red Bull, who only managed 21 laps over the whole of the 4 days. So, I mean, on average, that's about 5 laps a day, really, which is pretty horrific for a team of Red Bull stature. But in terms of reliability issues, some of the problems have been with the Renault ERS unit and just the whole power unit, really, which was kind of to be expected. But then there have been also cooling problems for Red Bull, which also doesn't really surprise me too much, and I actually did kind of see this coming, because out of the 3 engine suppliers, I don't think many people expected Renault to be the strongest, and I think most people expected them to be the weakest, to be honest. And it's not exactly like Red Bull haven't had their problems with reliability before. I mean, 2010, they were having problems with the car most races, to be honest, and they probably would have been out of sight if it wasn't for those problems in the championship. And it was just down to their kind of late season push that really got them that. And also, they've had plenty of alternator problems in the past, as well as that, like Valencia 2012 and also Monza 2012. So I mean, Adrian Newey, he creates fast cars, but I mean, he's also had reliability problems in the past with cars like McLaren in 2005. That was a monster of a car, but it just didn't have good enough reliability. But it's not quite a crisis yet for Red Bull, because they can still bounce back from this. They've still got plenty of time to develop the car before Bahrain. But I think Bahrain will be a crucial test for them to get back on track. And if they don't then a lot of question marks will be pondered over them going into Australia and a lot of people will expect them to not be challenging for a podium at the first race, but not a crisis yet at Red Bull, that's for sure. However, the two other Renault supplied teams I do worry about, especially Toro Rosso, because they really didn't get much running in compared to the other midfield runners like Sauber and Force India. Daniel Kvyat, or however the hell you pronounce his name, barely got any running compared to Kevin Magnussen, who's one of the other new drivers. He got probably, well, he got about at least 100 less laps or something, I believe, Kvyat, and really he needs to get some experience under his belt, because Magnussen had already driven an F1 car probably more than Kvyat as well. This is definitely a big year for Toro Rosso. They've really been lingering as a midfield team, and they're still kind of waiting for that full season where they really push on for strong points like Sauber, Force India, and I guess you could say Williams have had in the past couple of seasons. So this is a big year for them. It's especially a big year for John-Eric Verne, because he's been, this is his third season, I believe, and if he doesn't do well and he gets outperformed by Kvyat, then I do worry for him, really, because he actually did pretty well against Ricciardo last season, but it's just he didn't get the drive for Red Bull, and if he gets outperformed this season, I can't see him staying in F1 for much longer. But Toro Rosso, definitely, I would worry about them. Caterham have really gone all out this season. Tony Fernandez has said that he wants good results, otherwise he's pretty much gone, which also worries me for Caterham, because I have a feeling if they don't have a good season this season, they might be out of F1 by the end of the season, and potentially replaced by Toyota for next season as well, since they're supposed to be coming back into F1. But they did get a bit of running in. Kamiko actually got solid laps in, but Ericsson really wasn't able to get many laps in, and they also had certain problems with reliability, as did Toro Rosso as well. All the Renault teams basically had problems, but Caterham, I think, will struggle to beat Marussia, and that front nose may not last for long either. But now we move on to the midfield teams, which who have been, well, the midfield teams over the previous few years, and I'll start with Sauber, because they're kind of the mediocre team of testing, really. Apparently their car was a bit unstable and not the greatest, which doesn't worry me for them. They haven't really got the greatest driver lineup for this season. I mean, Till's pulled some decent results over the seasons, but I mean, he's not really been consistent enough, and the end to his Force India career wasn't exactly superb. And Gutierrez, I really don't rate as a driver at all. I think he'll be gone at the end of the season, unless he pulls out some miraculous performances, which he didn't do last season, that's for sure. So I seemed pretty mediocre. They did get quite a few laps in, but they also did spin off a few times. But Sauber was a Ferrari, and I expect them to kind of be the team that's just 13th, 14th, not really challenging too much, kind of the Williams of last season, really. But I think they'll probably beat Toro Rosso, saying that. Now, moving on to Force India. I was expecting Force India to be the team, the surprise package, really, of this season. They did kind of start well last season as well, but with that Mercedes engine and power unit, and their two drivers in Perez and Hulkenberg, who are both very solid, especially Hulkenberg, I really do expect them to do well this season, but they didn't exactly have the smoothest testing. They had a lot of problems with the car. It's breaking down, probably the least reliable Mercedes-powered car, I would say. But Force India, really, I expect them to do well, but compared to Williams, who I'll get onto in a minute, I don't expect them to do as well as them. And as for Williams, I really expect Williams to be the surprise package of this season. I mean, they topped the timesheets on the last day on Friday with Felipe Massa setting the fastest lap. He really could produce some surprises, really. And I actually expect Williams to get a podium, maybe a podium or two, going into the start of the season. I think they'll definitely prey off the vulnerability of teams like Red Bull, who may be struggling at the start of the season depending on the Bahrain test, but I think Williams could be a surprise package. They really have got two side drivers similar to Force India. They switched from Renault to Mercedes engine unit, which looks like a very good move now. They did have a few problems on the first few days, but that was just kind of getting used to the new systems. I really expect Massa and Bottas to be side, and I think this could rejuvenate Massa's career potentially. I really do hope Williams do well this season. But I'm not exactly a fan of them, but I just like to see teams with a lot of history do very well, especially after the struggles Williams have gone through in the previous few seasons. Now, moving on to Lotus with a double penetration. I was going to say penetration, but they're kind of the unknown at the moment. Obviously, they didn't run in this test, so who really knows what the hell's going to happen with them. And I do fear for them. I think Grosjean may produce some of the drives of his life and of the season in this year, because I think that Lotus is going to be a hell of a difficult car to drive, but you never know. With the new regulations, Lotus could pull out some good results, but they have lost James Allison, and I do worry about them a significant amount. But I guess we'll see in Bahrain, if they even end up running in Bahrain. They might end up running a bit later than that. A lot of people think it'll be the Lotus's last year as well in F1. I don't think that it will be their last year, even with Boulier leaving as well. I think they might be able to restructure. They had problems after the whole Crashgate thing when they were Renault, and they managed to sort that out. But you never know, Lotus could do pretty well this season if they maybe get the right package, but I could see them probably being the McLaren of this season, although probably slightly worse if anything. I can see Williams and potentially Force India beating them as well, and it'll also be difficult for them since they're running the Renault power unit as well, which does worry me. And Maldonado's crashing. There may be a lot of DNFs in there, that's for sure. As for Marussia, I kind of left them out because I don't really go into any of the categories that I kind of organised. But Marussia, they brought their car in late, which didn't really help them, but they still managed to do more laps than Red Bull, which is pretty impressive. Didn't really have any reliability problems, which is kind of usual for them. They didn't really. Max Churton obviously finished every single race last season, which is pretty amazing considering Max Churton is a terrible driver in my opinion. But Bianchi could definitely shine, and if anyone's going to trouble the midfield teams out of Marussia and Caterham, I can honestly see it being Marussia even, especially with Jules Bianchi at the wheel. Although I really can't see either of them getting in the points still this season unless something amazing happens, and I'm completely wrong. That's that for Marussia, but that Ferrari partnership could definitely work for them. Now moving on to the front running teams, we have Mercedes, which is currently being focused on in this race. It's on the screen. Who have really looked like the most solid unit along with McLaren, potentially unsurprisingly. Mercedes of course did have that problem with Lewis Hamilton's front wing on the first day, but they've recovered since from that, got the most running in, and they definitely look strong. They really haven't had too many reliability problems, and they also completed a race distance as well. And my tip for the title is Nico Rosberg. A lot of people will probably be saying Hamilton now, but I think Nico Rosberg will be able to beat Hamilton this season, and Nico Rosberg is my tip for the title. But Mercedes, definitely the current favourites at the moment. heading into Bahrain and the start of the season. As for Ferrari, solid but nothing really to scream about. They've kind of looked like the second big team. I believe they were the second most runners. They haven't really had too many reliability problems, but their engine probably isn't quite up to the standard of Mercedes, I would say. But Alonso and Raikkonen, you always expect good results from them, and you would expect them to be up there, and if they aren't, it would be an incredibly huge surprise. And even if they did have a bad car, Alonso's shown that he can drag that car up there. Now, as for the last team that I haven't mentioned yet, McLaren. Now, I'm not exactly the biggest McLaren fan, and I do like to slate them a lot, and I've even put a bet on that Button definitely won't win the championship. But they did get a lot of running in. They topped the timesheets on Wednesday and Thursday, I believe, and Magnussen also topped the timesheets on Thursday, I think it was, and he did get a hell of a lot of running in. And that McLaren also looks pretty reliably good, which could be a deadly combination. If that McLaren is quick and it's reliable, then it could be a very, very good car, considering McLaren have had problems in the past with just pace and or reliability, depending on which one. Well, they've just had cars that have been quick but then have had poor reliability, and then or cars that have just been slow but have actually had half decent reliability, like last season's car. In fact, the biggest comparison you could probably put for that is 2012 and 2013. But they could be strong this season, but I think they'll win I think they'll kind of be in the Lotus position where they'll win a race or two. But then, of course, they have also got that rear suspension, which a lot of people apparently are going to be trying to copy for Bahrain. But then, if a lot of people don't copy that for Bahrain, I can see a lot of people protesting, especially if they're topping the timesheets and then also going strong around Melbourne. But Bahrain should be an interesting test. It will definitely give us much more information, especially about Red Bull and if they've been able to improve the car. I expect Nui to improve it, but I can't see Red Bull being the strongest outfit going into Melbourne. I think that will be Mercedes, to be honest. And I can't see anything other than a Mercedes on pole. And I expect Nico Rosberg to win the race. And but who knows? With this new Formula 1, anything could really happen. But as it stands, Mercedes looks strong and the Renault units really don't. But I'll probably be doing one for Bahrain when that happens, although I'll probably do it after the 2 weeks and not in between the weeks, as there's a 1 week break between the two Bahrain tests, which will kind of just tie in with my preview for the season and my 5 predictions for the season as well. But it's been nice talking about this. I've kind of dribbled on for quite a while, actually, quite a bit longer than I expected, and this will take quite a long time to upload. But it'll be interesting to see where the F1 2014 season goes, and we've already got controversy and interesting facts and figures from the first test. But I'll see you soon, and well, thanks for watching.